What's going on, guys? We got some news to talk about today. We do have some Mt. Gox news. We also have the Fed decision approaching, and we have some XRP news to talk about. First off, Mt. Gox is back at it again. They transferred $152 million in Bitcoin, and this is a sign that they're going to start distributing their $3.8 billion, or 36,000 Bitcoin, which they have until October of 2025 to do so. I think most of the downward pressure from Mt. Gox is definitely behind us, and that drop down to 49K in August, a lot of it had to do with Mt. Gox and that selling pressure that was put in place. They had something like $9 billion worth of coins to distribute, and we're down to about a third of that left. I personally do think any short-term weakness, if they do really start selling it now, if they start heavily selling that Bitcoin, take advantage. This might not be the final disbursement and they sell a little bit, then go on to sell more later in the year before October of 2025. But I would personally prefer to see them just sell everything and get it out of the way, have this not hanging over our heads any longer. But let me know what you guys think. It is a little disappointing to hear this news as Bitcoin is breaking all-time highs. I personally think this won't throw off our momentum this time. Next is going to be some positive potential news. I always like getting the bad stuff out of the way first. Now, we all know there's this potential for a strategic national reserve. At least there's talks of it. You can argue for or against it, whether it is or isn't going to happen. We don't really know in the end. But it isn't just from a national level, it's also from a state level as well. And you guys might know about Texas because we talked about that recently, how Texas is introducing a bill to utilize Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. But that's not it. There's actually more states getting into this. In November, Pennsylvania lawmakers proposed a reserve in a bill that would allow public pension funds and the state treasurer to invest in Bitcoin. And of course, Florida recently approved an investment in Bitcoin by one of its public pensions. And also, in quotes, the state has a very good chance of establishing a strategic reserve in the first quarter of 2025. And this was said by the founder of Florida Blockchain Business Association. Now, Dennis Porter, who's the CEO of this Bitcoin advocacy group, Satoshi Action Fund, sorry if I sounded like a robot, they told CNBC that there's over 10 states ready to introduce legislation regarding the establishment of a reserve. Multiple countries are also approaching his group for help creating these reserves. From Brazil to Russia, most recently Japan, a number of these other countries are already interested in building a Bitcoin reserve. And we all know Tom Lee is a massive Bitcoin bull. He sees Bitcoin going to $500,000 if we do see these Bitcoin strategic reserves come to fruition. And while I think 500,000 this cycle is a little too optimistic, I definitely will not complain if we see it, but I'm not holding my breath. We also have some news coming from Ripple and specifically their stablecoin. Now, Uphold, who's a leading Web3 financial platform, they confirmed that Ripple's new USD stablecoin, or RLUSD, will be fully accessible on their platform. This starts December 18. And in addition to their launch, this will also be integrated into their reward center program coming in early 2025. As said by the CEO of Uphold, RLUSD is poised to play a significant role in the evolution of digital payments, enterprise finance, and beyond. We're proud to be among the initial launch partners of Ripple's first ever stablecoin solution. And the integration into this reward center will offer Uphold users several benefits, including a 5% reward on RLUSD holdings, access to exclusive crypto insights, and early access to new tokens. Rewards are earned by completing tasks, visiting the platform, the typical mumbo jumbo that you get while you're on an app. Now, looking at XRP on the chart, one thing I really want to see is this level hold, this $2 psychological previous resistance. I want to continue to see this hold as a support. We did come down and test it and it held up. It also looks like we're trying to break out of this, I would call it a bull flag. Shout out to my Discord for mentioning this pattern here. But you know, we really need to break over this 275 area and hold. After that, we need to break the psychological 3. One thing I'm also watching for XRP is this longer term ascending trend line that we've been on basically since November of 2024. Ever since we started breaking out, we have been utilizing this trend line. You'll see that we used it here along with the 50 MA that we basically bounced up. This is on the 1 hour, so keep that in mind. But anyways, we've been bouncing up on this ascending support. We literally bounced off of here. I do think we're going to get some kind of a reaction on it, hopefully a bounce by the end of the year. This pattern, this trend line basically comes up to the end of December right here. So we will see. I do think at the end of December, we will either bounce on this and break over these levels. These will be important to watch if we do get a bounce. First, of course, the 275 area that I mentioned, then the psychological 3. But if this breaks, we're going to retest some lower points, potentially 230 area, potentially the psychological 2. I do think there will be a reaction on this trend line. Keep an eye on it. Either we're going to get a bounce or we're going to get a break. And of course, we have the Fed meeting decision coming. This is going to be tomorrow. And right now, we're basically completely expecting a rate cut. What's going to be important in the meeting is what do they expect moving forwards? Are we going to get a pause in January? Are we going to see some hawkish wording from the Fed? Or are things going to sound optimistic? One thing we have been seeing is inflation data has been taking up, CPI, PPI. We want to see inflation data moving forwards start coming back in line, coming back down, trending back down. PCE is next, coming at the end of this year or month. But we are very likely for another rate cut tomorrow. I do expect small caps to end the year strong on this news. And I didn't mention the Bitcoin miners yet in this video, but where the Bitcoin miners are concerned, Bitcoin is ending the year very strong. The Bitcoin miners gave their forward guidance for Q4. In a lot of cases, this was back in September. This was back when Bitcoin was in like the 60, 70,000s. Many of these Bitcoin miners have guided for unprofitability. I think we are going to get some surprise profitability in Q4. We saw this in early 2024. This is what caused the Bitcoin miners to rally, if you guys remember. These Bitcoin miners were unprofitable throughout 2023. They posted profitable quarters, and that's what caused the rally. What caused the major pullback is the Bitcoin miners going back to unprofitable because the halving took those rewards away, cut those rewards in half, brought them back to unprofitable. When we are at this cycle top and we are looking back at this point, mark my words, this was a buying opportunity. People are complaining about the Bitcoin miners. While Bitcoin's over 100,000, a lot of Bitcoin miners aren't performing that well. If anything, that should make you that much more bullish on them. The fact that retail is so ready to leave the Bitcoin miners once their accounts turn green makes me a little sad, because I do think a lot of retail will miss the major move on these Bitcoin miners. But anyways, how are you guys feeling? Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.